this video, you'll see some of the most terrifying things that fell from the sky. There's a rainfall that looks like pure blood, a piece of ice from the sky that isn't anything close to what you'd want to put in your mouth, and of course we have this juicy meat that falls straight from the sky. But first, let's look at this powerful meteor that caught scientists quite unaware. Number 10. A meteor strike. Ever imagined how safe we are here on Earth? I'm pretty sure most of us don't live in fear of being killed by things falling from space. After all, water covers the largest percentage of the Earth's surface, right? But it turns out that a meteorite can be, in fact, very life-threatening here on Earth. Maybe it's time we start taking caution. The first meteorite which proved this belief happened a century ago, and it caught scientists quite unaware. The Tunguska meteor, which is the largest explosion ever recorded in human history, happened in 1908 near the Podkamenaya Tunguska River in Yeniseisk Governorate, Russia. The Tunguska meteor explosion was so powerful that it cleared the entire forest. In fact, scientists estimate that the explosion was 2,000 times more powerful than that of the Hiroshima bomb blast. It's only by luck that it exploded in a forest. About a century later, another meteorite strike was recorded in western Siberia in Russia in 2013. The Chelyabinsk meteor is the largest meteor to be recovered. It came with a blinding flash and struck the city with a loud sonic boom. Shattering glasses all over as thousands of people were left with serious injuries. And just like the Tunguska meteor, this one also caught NASA by surprise. Number 9. Blue ice. Well, blue ice is just a more polite way of saying frozen human waste. Now, when you travel on a plane, you get served meals, and of course digestion takes place, and you feel the need to relieve yourself while on board. But do you ever stop to ask where the waste goes when you flush the toilet on a plane? Actually, the answer is blue ice. Initially, planes used to have a system that would release the flushed human waste into the air. But because the plane flies at a high altitude, the waste would get frozen and end up collecting moisture and eventually fall on the Earth's surface as solid ice. In 2018, locals of a small village in India were shocked when a giant frozen ball of human waste fell to the ground. It weighed 22 pounds, and as you can tell, such a weight is enough to crush your skull considering the pressure it comes with. Due to the danger of blue ice, planes now store human waste in tanks which are emptied at the airport immediately after the plane lands. Number 8. Boiled bats. Australia is known to be home to the world's largest bats. In fact, they grew in numbers and became a nuisance to humanity as they threatened to take over local cities in Australia. These animals are scary as they roam the sky at night looking for fruit and blood to eat. But even scarier is witnessing dead bats falling from the sky into your backyard. How would you react? Now, this is not just an imaginary case. A few years back, Australia was hit by a dangerous heat wave, and temperatures were rising as high as 44 degrees Celsius, such that bats could not survive. This led to hundreds of flying fox bats falling from the sky in Campbelltown, Australia. Efforts by members of the public to rescue the bats were futile, as the bats were already dead after the heat boiled their tiny brains. Number 7. Frozen iguanas. Still on the issue of extreme temperature and how it causes strange creatures to fall from the sky, we have the iguanas. Unlike the bats in Australia, which got boiled by hot temperature, the iguanas in this case got frozen. In early 2020, the residents of Florida woke up to the shock of a lifetime when frozen iguanas started dropping from the sky. This is following the much colder weather that hit the area, forcing Disney Network to close its Blizzard Beach theme park. It was so cold, far beyond the practical temperature of the area. The iguanas were not used to the cold temperature, and so they could not manage to grip tree branches. This forced them to hibernate for their safety. Such a terrible moment for these innocent little creatures. Luckily, no one was injured by the iguanas as they went about collecting them. Number 6. Raw meat shower. Now, this one here is probably a barbecue party made from heaven, only that we don't know the host. If meat forms part of your favorite meal, then come and let's dine. In March 1876, residents of Olympia Springs in Kentucky witnessed a bizarre occurrence, much like what you'd see in a horror movie. It was on a normal day and Alan Crouch was busy in his backyard preparing soap when suddenly enormous chunks of meat started raining down from the sky. This bizarre phenomenon was reported all over, including in the New York Times, even as scientists braced up to examine samples of the meat. But even before scientists could do their part, some brave and curious locals decided to taste the meat and reported that it might have come from a sheep or a bear. However, after testing the samples, scientists concluded that the meat might have come from a horse or a human body. Number 5. Frog rain. When you think of Canada, probably the first thing that comes to your mind is the igloos, hockey, and huge chunks of snow. But I'm pretty sure you're not aware of one strange phenomenon that took place in this beautiful country a century ago. Now, in 1921, the cold northern town of Calgary experienced a frightening moment when suddenly frogs started falling from the sky. But this was not the first time something of this nature was happening in Canada. In August 1896, a weekly publication in Ontario reported a frog rain in Gananoque, Ontario. You might be asking how these tiny creatures got themselves in the sky, right? Well, it is believed that a tornado picked up thousands of these frogs as it passed over the water, and as it morphed into a storm over Canada, the frogs started dropping on the ground far from their natural ecosystem. Number 4. Human body. When we talk of things falling from the sky, probably the least you'd expect to see is a human body. But these things happen. In a mysterious incident, human parts were falling from the sky above Jeddah in Saudi Arabia back in January 2014. Well, an early investigation revealed that they could be the remains of someone trapped in an aircraft undercarriage bay. Whether it was a plane crash mid-air or someone falling from a plane's landing gear, no one had a clear answer. But the whole incident was indeed terrifying. Number 3. Sprinkling spiders. If you're an arachnophobe, you can bet this is not going to be a good scene for you. As much as you might think that spider rain is uncommon, it turns out that it's getting more frequent than we can expect. Back in 2015 in Australia, millions of baby spiders rained down from the sky. Buildings were covered with thousands of tiny spiders. You could think the owners abandoned the houses long ago. In a recent incident, a spider rain was witnessed in Brazil in 2019. One man reported that he was driving through a small town west of Sao Paulo when thousands of tiny spiders rained from the sky, covering his car. You might just be wondering how the spiders got themselves in the sky and started raining. Now, according to scientific discovery, spider rain results from a process called ballooning, where the spiders produce filaments to launch themselves into the air. This normally happens when the spiders want to migrate to a new location with the aid of air current. Number 2. A space junk. Now, this is not the Wang Chung tune from the Walking Dead film. I'm talking about literal space junk. Well, there are thousands of satellites in space, and if they all came raining down, we'd all be at risk. But we rarely think of a space station raining down on Earth, right? Perhaps it's time we all start worrying about our safety from the many robotic spacecraft suspended in Earth's orbit. In July 1979, against scientists' wishes, NASA's Skylab space station, which was defunct, came raining in the Indian Ocean and part of Western Australia. And as scientists went back to rest thinking the odds of another spacecraft crashing were close to zero, another crash just happened in March 2018. The Chinese Tiangong-1, a 9.4-ton prototype space station, crashed into the Pacific Ocean as it burst into flames moments after re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. Number 1. Blood rain. When clouds gather and winds start blowing, we expect to see rain, right? But what if the next thing you see is raindrops of what appears to be blood leaking out of the sky? Well, that's what locals of a small Spanish village of Zamora witnessed a few years back. They woke up to the shock of a lifetime in 2014 when they discovered that blood had rained onto their town overnight. But that was not the first time blood rain was reported. In 2008, residents of a small town of La Sierra Choco, Colombia, also witnessed blood rain. With hopes high to collect the rainwater, they placed buckets outside. But they were startled to discover that it was not even water, but blood. When a bacteriologist took a sample of the substance and tested it, he confirmed that indeed it was blood. Thanks for watching.